President Tinubu lifts state of emergency in Rivers State, restores democratic governance. The president has announced the end of the 6-month state of emergency imposed on Rivers State, declaring that democratic governance will fully resume in the state from September 18, 2025. President Tinubu made the declaration in a nationwide broadcast on Wednesday, noting that the emergency measure, proclaimed on March 18, 2025, was necessary to halt what he described as a total paralysis of governance in the state. At the time of the proclamation, a deep rift between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the Rivers State House of Assembly had brought government activities to a standstill. The crisis saw 4 lawmakers aligned with the governor while 27 backed Speaker Martins Amewal, leaving the governor unable to present appropriation bills or access funds for state administration. The Supreme Court, in one of its rulings on the matter, also observed that there was effectively no government in Rivers State. President Tinubu said the decision to suspend the offices of the governor, deputy governor, and all members of the State House of Assembly for 6 months was a painful but necessary step to restore order and safeguard critical assets, including oil pipelines, from further disruption. I was obligated to invoke the powers conferred on me by Section 305 of the Constitution to proclaim the state of emergency. It would have been a colossal failure on my part as president not to have acted. He expressed gratitude to the National Assembly for promptly approving the proclamation, and I quote, "I am happy to address you today on the state of emergency declaration in Rivers State. You will recall that on March 18, 2025, I proclaimed a state of emergency in the state. In my proclamation address, I highlighted the reasons for the declaration. The summary of it for context is that there was a total paralysis of governance in Rivers State, which had led to the governor of Rivers State and the House of Assembly being unable to work together. Critical economic assets of the state, including oil pipelines, were being vandalized. The State House of Assembly was crisis-ridden, such that members of the House were divided into 2 groups. 4 members worked with the governor, while 27 members opposed the governor. The latter group supported the speaker. As a result, the governor could not present any appropriation bill to the House, to enable him to access funds to run Rivers State's affairs. That serious constitutional impasse brought governance in the state to a standstill. Even the Supreme Court, in one of its judgments in a series of cases filed by the executive and the legislative. I am not unaware that there were a few voices of dissent against the proclamation, which led to their instituting over 40 cases in the courts in Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Yenagoa, to invalidate the declaration. That is the way it should be in a democratic setting. Some cases are still pending in the courts as of today. But what needs to be said is that the power to declare a state of emergency is an inbuilt constitutional tool to address situations of actual or threatened breakdown of public order and public safety, which require extraordinary measures to return the state to peace, order, and security. Considered objectively, we had reached that situation of total breakdown of public order and public safety in Rivers State, as shown in the judgment of the Supreme Court on the disputes between the executive and the legislative arm of Rivers State. It would have been a colossal failure on my part as president not to have made that proclamation. As a stakeholder in democratic governance, I believe that the need for a harmonious existence and relationship between the executive and the legislature is key to a successful government, whether at the state or national level. The people who voted us into power expect to reap the fruits of democracy. However, that expectation will remain unrealizable in an atmosphere of violence, anarchy, and insecurity born by misguided political activism and Machiavellian manipulations among the stakeholders. I am happy today that, from the intelligence available to me, there is a groundswell of a new spirit of understanding, a robust readiness, and potent enthusiasm on the part of all the stakeholders in Rivers State for an immediate return to democratic governance. This is undoubtedly a welcome development for me and a remarkable achievement for us. I therefore do not see why the state of emergency should exist a day longer than the 6 months I had pronounced at the beginning of it. It therefore gives me great pleasure to declare that the emergency in Rivers State of Nigeria shall end. The Governor, His Excellency Siminalayi Fubara, the Deputy Governor, Her Excellency Ngozi Nmaodiu, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly and the Speaker, Martins Amewal, will resume work in their offices from September 18, 2025. I take this opportunity to remind the governors and the houses of assembly of all the states of our country to continue to appreciate that it is only in an atmosphere of peace, order, and good government that we can deliver the dividends of democracy to our people. I implore all of you to let this realization drive your actions at all times. I thank you all. End of quote. Congratulations to Rivers people. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.